So a few years ago, I was doing a show. I was at the Safari Club International, and I had just got Theuns Prinsloo, who today is November 24th, and we're thankful for Theuns, and today we're going to talk about him a little bit. But I was at this show, and Theuns Prinsloo had made a knife for me, and it was awesome. It was a warthog ivory. He customized it to me. He made this beautiful knife for me, and I had bought the knife from him. But I was carrying this knife around, and I was at the show, and we sell knives. So there's a ton of knives on the table. Customer comes up to me, he looks at some of the knives, and he says, "Ooh, these are nice, these are nice. But what do you have in your pocket?" And I pulled it out, and I showed it to him, and he says, "I want that knife." And I said, "Well, it's not for sale. It's my knife. I mean, Theuns made this knife for me." And he says, "I'll give you $1,000 right now." Well, I mean, I guess everything has a price. And I said, I called Theuns up and I said, "Theuns, the guy bought the knife right out of my pocket and he wanted it so bad. I'm going to have to get you to make another one." So he made me another one. This one's even better. Theuns does something that not a whole lot of makers do. He makes every knife unique. No two are the same. Whether it's the steel that he uses, he makes his own Damascus, or sometimes he uses 1095 and does the Hammond on it. But each knife has maybe some carving on it, or the back spacers a little, the filing work is different, or the little details are what make Theuns' knives different than anybody else. Every knife, though, if you look inside of the spacer, the back spacer inside of the knife, and sometimes you have to get a light and you have to kind of shine it in there, but when you shine it in there and you look, you'll see that he puts his name, he puts a little scene with a mountain and a tree. Sometimes he puts little African bushmen in it, but that tree and that mountain, I've been to his house, are in the background of his house. You look out from his back porch area, there's some water, there's a tree right here, an African tree, beautiful, and then there's a big mountain in the background. That's his inspiration. So every knife has little details that you're like, no other knife maker does. No knife maker will get down there and put it in the back spacer. I mean, it's kind of almost like when Michelangelo was painting the Sistine Chapel. And you go into the Sistine Chapel and people will tell you behind walls that you'll never see, up in the rafters, in the corners, things that you'll never see are these beautiful things that Michelangelo knew nobody would ever see it, but he knew that they were there, and he knew that was a piece of his art. That's kind of like Theuns. Theuns makes stuff that nobody else is making. He does a lot of African themes, so he'll make knives like this. This is a special piece because he took a picture of a giraffe with a little baby giraffe kind of peeking out from behind it. And so on this side of the knife, he has the mama giraffe, and on the other side of the knife, you'll see the little baby kind of peeking out behind him. Brass carved into it. He takes each by hand and carves into it. Right now, one of the things that he's really doing that I'm really loving is that he's using prehistoric mammoth tooth and mammoth ivory, stuff that they dig up in Siberia and Alaska, and he's taken on this prehistoric theme. This one right here, though, he calls dinosaur extinction. And you can see he's got a look at T-Rex right here, and then you have the meteors, the asteroids or whatever, just coming down and raining fire on this mug. And it's titanium bolster, and you can see the little African bushman. You probably can't see the details up close, but it's awesome. Another detail that he does, if this right here, this is on Damascus, he does something that he calls a salt bluing on it. It's almost like if you're bluing a gun. A lot of times you'll take the metal, and to inhibit the rust, you'll take it and you'll dip it in hot bluing salts. That's what he does, and he has this beautiful shimmery color that comes out when he does that. That's a beautiful knife. Something that he's done most recently, and you'll see this one go up on the website soon, is flowers. I don't see very many knives with flowers. This is a giraffe bone handle, and he just hand carves each flower. And in his backyard, again, well, he probably sits there and he's carving it out, but in his backyard is big bushes with flowers in it. And these flowers are just exquisite. Very depth, very 3D. And if that wasn't enough that he just did that in the side bolsters, he also, if you look at the back spacer, it's not like regular file work. In fact, it's flowers going down the back of the back spacer. It's very unique, very different. Chin's is very unique and very different. And you should check out his work. You should, at some point, own a piece of his work because he's the Michelangelo of custom knives.